Hey everybody, Dr. Dan here, and this week we're going to talk about the rise of consumerism, and really we're going to talk about department stores and retailing. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to watch a video by a professor named Michael Flam, and he teaches at Ohio Wesleyan University. And it's a great video because what Flam talks about is the fact that in the early 1900s, Americans began to change the way that they identified themselves. So prior to that time, Flam points out that people tended to identify themselves with what they did for a living. And after the 1910s, 1920s, people started to identify themselves with what they had. So ownership of things, keeping up with the Joneses, begins to be more important and begins to, I think, mark the beginning of a consumer culture in the United States. So watch that video. It's very short. It's very informative. You're going to do a reading by John DeBacco this week, and he is going to, he writes about the beginning of Sears and the beginning of J.C. Penney. So it's an interesting read because, again, these stores go back to the turn of the century, the late 1800s. And he's also going to talk about Montgomery Ward, which is a store that started in 1879 and went out of business some time ago. If you're my age, you remember Montgomery Ward. The cool thing about the reading is that you learn how Sears, took advantage of distribution. And it's the same with Penny's and Sears and Montgomery Ward. Back in 1910, 1912, rural route delivery first started. So, there was obviously no UPS, no FedEx, and even the U.S. Mail Service didn't deliver in rural areas. So in 1910, between 1910 and 1912, rural route delivery started, which meant that the U.S. Mail expanded to deliver mail to everybody, no matter how rural or far away they were. And that really changed the nature of distribution because now people like Montgomery Ward, people like Sears, they could send catalogs out to individuals regardless of where they lived, and they could also ship goods to those people. So it was all about advertising and distribution, especially with Sears, Penny's, and Montgomery Ward. And now what we find, ironically, is that those stores, well, Montgomery Ward's been gone for a while, but those stores, Sears and Penny's, they're really struggling, and they're struggling because Amazon has mastered distribution through this new channel of selling on the internet and having everything delivered, next day or the day after if you're a Prime member. So it's interesting to see how this has all evolved. Retailing and consumerism is still a vital part of our culture, and I think we all identify with consumer goods. So maybe you're an Apple person when it comes to computers or phones. Maybe you drive a certain brand of car and you identify with that, or your parents identified with a certain type of car. So we still identify with consumer goods, but as far as the structure and the infrastructure and the way we buy, it's changed. So it's interesting to me if you think of someone like Sears or Montgomery Ward who takes advantage of railroad shipping and rural route shipping, and you see how they were eclipsed by someone like Amazon, who really took distribution another step farther, really mastered the distribution channel that happens on the internet, shopping on the internet, and the ability to put together a logistics operation that can ship millions of packages every day and get them there on time. So what I want you to get out of this module is to understand that consumerism rises in the early 1900s, and I think it's fascinating to read about Sears and then read these last two articles in the module about Amazon. Kind of gives you a perspective of the evolution of retail. Now, the other thing I'll leave you with, consumerism just doesn't happen because there's goods out there. The other thing that's absolutely necessary for consumerism is disposable income. So as jobs form, as companies form and require more middle managers and more workers, even blue-collar workers, people all of a sudden have disposable income for the first time ever. So obviously, retail can take advantage of that disposable income, and the whole economy and the whole class system of middle class starts to form around that same time. So those are some takeaways, and it's really, not so much a technology piece, but some of it is. The rural route delivery technically is a transportation technology, but it's also, when we're talking about history of business, you have to understand this shift, because consumerism drives our entire economy right now. Back in the 1900s, we were really an industrial economy still. So there's been this gradual change. So those are the main points for this module. I hope you enjoy the FLAM video, the DeBacco reading, and the readings about Amazon. That's it for now. Stay safe. Have a great day. Bye-bye.